My name is Maris Vale, 27 years old. I dropped my hospital badge on the kitchen counter, blue scrubs wrinkled and clinging after 12 hours that smelled like antiseptic and adrenaline. The freezer exhales fog when I open it. Chicken tenders. A block of vegetables frosting over in their bag. Good enough for Nina. I slide the tray onto a sheet pan, thumb the oven on, and let the hum and click settle my nerves. Maris, could you come in here? Dad's voice arrives from the dining room with that studied calm he uses like cologne before a hard conversation. Just a minute, I call, hands already moving, the practice dance of being useful. I jab the timer, wipe my palms on a dish towel, feel my compression socks bite my calves, and head toward the oak room we usually reserve for pastor visits and holidays. They've staged it like a hearing. Mom at one end, Dad at the other, their chairs squared to the table's edges. Nina's wheelchair is at the side, perfectly perpendicular, brakes locked. She doesn't meet my eyes. Between them lies a neat fan of paper, crisp white against the old scars and water rings. Dad's signet ring glints as he places a pen just so, parallel to the margin, the tip hovering over a line already labeled with my name. Sit, he says. No greeting. No, how was your shift? I sit. My body still thinks it should be moving. Pulse high, hands ready to chart or compress a chest. What's going on? Dad slides the top document toward me. The pen tracks with it, the nib leaving the faintest scratch on the wood. Your mother and I are getting older, he says, fingers steepled. We need to formalize what's already been true since the accident. Mom's smile is soft and unyielding at once. It's called a caregiver agreement. The title sits heavy at the top in bold. Beneath it, responsible party, Maris E. Vale. I clear my throat. What is this exactly? You'll cash out your 401k to create a care fund for Nina, Mom says, smoothing an invisible wrinkle in the table runner. And you'll contribute $2,000 monthly toward her ongoing expenses. I feel the world tip a measurable degree. $2,000 every month? You make $70,000 as a nurse, Dad says, as if reading a neutral lab value. That's over $4,000 after taxes. We're asking for half, for family. My student loans, I hear myself ask. My rent? Don't hide behind student loans, Mom says, that edge sharpening in her tone. You have $60,000 in your 401. Cashing out leaves you at least $40,000 after penalties. You'll manage. The letters on the paper blur and then resolve again. Legal phrases spool into knots. Binding, obligation, enforcement. The lines populate with my full name as if typed there by someone else's hands. This feels sudden, I say quietly. Nothing sudden about it, Dad replies. You've been responsible for your sister since the day you left her at the bus stop to feed stray cats. Something inside me, the obedient part that learned to apologize before speaking, nods on reflex. Another part, smaller, newer, crosses its arms. He pushes the pen closer. I notice the way his handwriting dents through 3 layers when he signs anything, the pressure points like little craters. Even the way he holds the pen, pinched too tightly, leaves a groove in his finger. It's a detail that shouldn't matter. It lodges anyway. Sign today, we'll file tomorrow, he says. We can stop scrambling. Nina's hands are folded in her lap, thumbs rubbing a groove into each other. When she lifts her gaze, it's brief, then gone. I remember being 16 in a humming ICU, braiding her hair around the sutures, whispering a promise that felt like penance and love in the same breath. I'll always take care of you. I'll fix it. I'll fix it. I'll fix it. I said it like a spell. Why is all of this on me? My voice comes out softer than I intend. We're all family. Dad's mustache twitches. Because you're the reason she's in that wheelchair. The blade that sentence always becomes slides between my ribs, familiar and precise. For 11 years, I've kept it polished with double shifts and holiday trades and transfer requests, carving away at anything that smelled like a future that wasn't penance. I could sign. End this conversation. Keep the peace I've been taught to manufacture. I need time to think, I say. Dad's eyebrows rise. Surprise, then irritation. There's nothing to think about. Sign now, Mom adds, tone brightening, like a cashier asking for a signature at checkout. Or we'll have to explain to people what you've chosen. Pastor Miller, your supervisor at Denver Memorial, the prayer team. It would be such a shame for them to learn you've been abandoning your sister. The room recedes and narrows all at once. This is the choreography we've practiced for years. They state the story, I supply the guilt, The community supplies the shame. A closed loop with no exits. I pick up the pen. It's heavier than it looks. The tip hovers over my name. I hear the oven tick as it climbs temperature. I hear the refrigerator motor kick on. I hear Nina shift, the tiny squeak of rubber against tile. I set the pen down, aligning it with the table's grain. I'll talk to you tomorrow. I stand up on legs that don't feel entirely mine and walk out before the script can require a collapse or an apology. In my room, I lock the door. The old brass knob is cool against my fingers. My phone lights up my face in the dim. The contact I scroll to is a fossil, Evelyn. We haven't spoken since the year I chose night classes over the road trip she begged me to take. I press call anyway, knuckles white around the phone. She answers on the third ring. Maris? Surprise first, then concern. It's been forever. Are you okay? The way she asks it unclenches something I didn't know my throat was holding. Words tumble out in the wrong order. Dining room, papers, 2000, responsible party, my name everywhere, the pen, the pen, the pen. I describe Mom's threat about my boss and the church, Dad's arithmetic that reduces me to a revenue stream. The longer I talk, the more the numbness burns off and leaves raw, bright pain. Okay, she says, voice shifting into that lawyerly calm I used to tease her about. Breathe. Now start at the beginning and tell me exactly what they put in front of you. I sit on the edge of the bed and read the headings to her, the clauses, the parts that reference default, arbitration, wage assignment. I hear her typing, the soft clack I remember from study nights. They want you to liquidate your retirement and pay them $2,000 a month, she repeats, like she's entering it into evidence. And they're anchoring the moral argument in the idea that the accident was your fault. It was, I say automatically, the creed of my adult life. I left Nina to feed the cats. She missed the bus, tried to catch up. Maris, Evelyn interrupts, gentle but firm. What? Have you ever seen the actual police report from the day of the accident? The room goes very still. It's a simple question. It detonates like a charge set under a foundation. No, I say, because the truth is a small, cold thing. I was 16. They handled everything. They told me. They told you, she echoes. Not the police, not witnesses, not the ER chart, them. I stare at the shadow of the oak tree outside my window, its branches spidering across the blinds, adding bars to a room that already feels like a cell. Somewhere down the hall, the oven beeps its preheat. The house still thinks dinner is on its way. I'll meet you tomorrow, Evelyn says. First thing, there are public records I can pull tonight. We will look at facts, not family stories, facts. A laugh escapes me, wrong and too sharp. If it's all what they said it was, none of this changes anything. If it is what they said, then at least you'll be carrying the right weight. A pause. But if it isn't, you've been carrying a ghost. The oven timer dings. In the doorway beyond my door, the hall light snaps on. The bulb hums. I press my palm over my sternum as if something might fall out. Maris, Evelyn asks softly. I'm here, I say, and my voice is steady enough to surprise me. Text me the address. I'll be there. We hang up. The house is quiet in that listening way houses have. On the dresser, my badge catches a slice of streetlight and throws a thin line across the ceiling like a horizon. I unlock my door and step back into the hall. The chicken is still where I left it. Oven hot now, kitchen bright. I plate food, because care is a reflex, and carry it toward Nina's room. At her door, I pause, listening. There's the soft click of her phone, then stillness. I knock twice and push the door with my shoulder. Dinner, I say, and try to make it sound like any other night, like I haven't just stepped off a script and into open air. Nina glances at the plate and then at my face. Something flickers there. Fear, relief, both. Thanks, she says, voice small. Her hands worry at each other again. A slow, invisible metronome. I set the plate on her tray and lower the brake with my foot, the way I always do. I'll be up early, I tell her. Work stuff. She nods, and her eyes slide away. The silence between us is thick with the things we've agreed not to say. I back out and close the door softly, the latch catching like a careful breath. In my room, I prop the caregiver agreement against the lamp. The margins look wider than before, the signature line longer. I pick up the pen Dad pushed at me, the one still warm from his hand earlier, and press the tip to a scrap of junk mail. A dark groove carves the paper where my name would go. The pressure leaves an imprint 3 sheets down. I turn off the light and lie in the dark, the question Evelyn asked settling into the quiet like a second heartbeat. Have you ever seen the report? I haven't. Not once. I close my eyes and, for the first time in 11 years, imagine the possibility that the story I built my life around might not be true. The thought is terrifying. It's also oxygen. I take a slow breath and let it burn. The coffee shop buzzes in its usual morning rhythm. Steam hiss, grinder hum, chairs scraping tile. I wrap both hands around the mug Evelyn slides toward me, holding it steady so no one sees how much I'm shaking. The ceramic's warmth doesn't sink past my skin. Across from me, she's no longer the girl I remember from college, wild curls and late-night pizza boxes. Today she's sharp lines, charcoal suit, hair pulled into a severe ponytail, laptop already open, pen poised like a weapon. You look like you haven't slept in a week, she says, voice flat. Not unkind, just factual. 12-hour shifts and surprise ambushes at the oak table will do that. My laugh is brittle. I haven't been home except to sleep since, Her expression softens just briefly before snapping back to focus. She clicks open a manila folder, its edges pristine, the kind of document that doesn't belong in the mess of my life. I pulled the police report. The words hang between us, heavy as stone. I stare at the folder like it's radioactive. How bad is it? My voice sounds small, childlike. Read it yourself, she says, and turns it toward me. Black type swims before my eyes. Location, Westridge Road in Maple, 3.8 miles from our neighborhood. Time, 3:42 p.m. Vehicle, 1998, Honda motorcycle. Driver, Jason Miller, age 17. Passenger, Nina Vale, age 14. This can't. My throat closes. They told me she missed the bus, that she was running to the next stop because I wasn't there. Keep reading, Evelyn instructs. Witness testimony leaps from the page like a punch. Female passenger was laughing, arms wrapped around driver's waist. Motorcycle attempted to beat yellow light. Delivery truck had green signal when collision occurred. I press my hand over my mouth. The letters blur. The cafe walls tilt. Bathroom. I choke and stumble away. The door slams behind me. Cold tile. Fluorescent light. I barely make it before my stomach empties itself. Bile burns my throat. I grip the sink and stare at the stranger in the mirror. Pale skin, hollow eyes, hair plastered with sweat. A ghost built from lies. I rinse my mouth and return. Evelyn's untouched latte sits like a clock. She doesn't comment on my blotchy skin or trembling hands. She just waits, steady as bedrock. They lied, I whisper, sliding back into the booth. 11 years. They made me... My voice fractures. I gave up everything. She covers my hand with hers, firm. They lied to keep control. At first, probably to hide Nina's secret relationship. Then to secure money. They turned your guilt into a resource. My chest feels caved in, but I promised. I said it was my fault. You promised based on a story they built for you. Evelyn flips to another page. Do you remember your grandmother leaving you $20,000 when she died? I nod slowly. They said it went to emergency medical expenses. Insurance covered almost all of Nina's care, she says. Your father redirected that money within months of the accident. Memories tumble. Dad's heavy hand on my shoulder in a hospital room saying, for your sister's future. Mom's voice like scripture. This is your responsibility. Each memory now glows with new meaning, a cruel spotlight exposing manipulation. I can't breathe. They told me to choose nursing instead of engineering because I'd be better equipped to take care of her. My voice sounds far away. And because it pays less, Evelyn says, sliding another sheet across. Your starting salary would have been nearly double in engineering. They steered you into a career that kept you available and financially limited. My pulse hammers. They made me stay home, watch her, night classes while working days. They controlled every variable, Evelyn says, and they built their life around your guilt. I close my eyes. Flash fragments resurface. Nina whispering late-night phone calls, sudden fascination with basketball games, giggles that made no sense when I thought she was heartbroken over a missed bus. They were about him, Jason, her secret boyfriend. I grip the edge of the table until my knuckles whiten. She knew Nina knew. She was 14, Evelyn says gently. Old enough to remember the truth, old enough to understand the silence. I want to scream. Instead, tears scald my eyes. Why would she let them? Why would she let me? Fear, Evelyn interrupts, and dependence. She thought keeping silent meant survival. That doesn't excuse it, but it explains it. The weight of 11 years presses down, crushing and unfamiliar. For so long, guilt has been my air. Without it, I don't know how to breathe. Who am I if I didn't ruin her life? You're someone who was stolen from, Evelyn says, crisp and certain. Your future, your inheritance, your choices. I study the report again, the stark type against white paper. Jason Miller. The name spins memories I buried. His basketball jacket draped over chairs, his cocky grin at school games, Mom's sharp whispers about him being too old, too wild. They made me believe I killed my sister's future, I whisper. But she was with him, joyriding. Evelyn nods. I also spoke with a nurse who worked the trauma room that day. Your father was already telling staff it was your fault before they even finished stabilizing Nina. Something cold and precise lodges in my chest. Betrayal. Deeper than the accident. Deeper than Nina's silence. My parents weaponized me from the first moment. Why? Money at first, but control became the bigger prize. She leans forward. Think about the timing. They pushed you to sign over inheritance. They stalled your college. They made sure your career path kept you tied down. I shake my head. They orchestrated my whole life. And they're not done, Evelyn warns. That agreement they shoved in front of you is the culmination. They're desperate. They've probably been planning this for months. I wipe at my face, smudging tears with the heel of my hand. So what now? We build a timeline, Evelyn says. Inheritance, loans, career steering. We gather evidence, witness statements, Jason, Aunt Laura. Anyone who can confirm the truth. I laugh again raw. Expose my own family? They exposed you the day they lied, she counters. This isn't revenge, it's freedom. I clutch the police report tighter, as though it might cut me otherwise. Nina will hate me for this. Maybe at first, Evelyn concedes. But the truth frees both of you. I swallow hard. For the first time in over a decade, I imagine a version of my life not shackled to a lie. It feels impossible. It feels intoxicating. Okay, I say. My voice trembles but holds. Let's do this. Evelyn's expression shifts, something like pride flickering. She closes the folder with a quiet snap, as though sealing our pact. Then the real work begins. I look out the cafe window. People laugh over lattes, rush for buses, check their watches, lives unfolding without the weight of a fabricated guilt story. My reflection stares back faintly in the glass, eyes still red, but sharper. A woman who might finally claim her own name. I clutch the mug tighter. The warmth has seeped in this time. Oxygen floods my lungs. The lie is cracked. The truth is here, and nothing will ever be the same. The living room feels like a war room, though the only weapons are markers, sticky notes, and the relentless thud of Evelyn's pen against a legal pad. She's transformed my apartment into something alien. Timelines stretching across the wall in neat blue strokes, arrows connecting dates, boxes labeled inheritance, 401k. Student loans. Each sticky note is a wound I hadn't realized I carried until she pinned it under fluorescent light. You see the pattern? She asks, stepping back, arms folded. I lean against the kitchen counter, fingers curled around a chipped mug of coffee. It looks like every time I tried to move forward, they found a way to anchor me back. Exactly. She gestures at the cluster around 2014. You applied to engineering programs. Your mom convinced you nursing was more practical for Nina's care. Then, 2017, you planned to move out, and suddenly Nina had a setback that required you home full-time. I can almost hear my mother's voice in those notes. Practical, Maris. Sacrificial. Holy. Words dressed like virtue, but barbed with chains. The door buzzer jars me back. Evelyn checks her phone. That'll be Marcus. She opens the door, and in walks a man I've only known through articles that went viral. Investigative journalist, the one who exposed a family faking a child's illness for donations. He carries a satchel thick with folders, recorder peeking from the pocket. His presence changes the air, heavier now, sharper. Maris. He shakes my hand, his grip steady. Evelyn filled me in. I'd like to help if you're willing. Stories like yours matter. A cynical laugh rises in me. You mean fraud stories. His eyes don't flinch. I mean survival stories. People deserve to know how families can twist obligation into a noose. I nod, throat tight. Then come in. We crowd around the coffee table. Marcus pulls out documents like a magician laying cards. I trace some of the finances. Your parents are underwater. Second mortgage, maxed cards, medical bills. But here's the kicker. Less than half of what you gave them went toward Nina's care. He taps a spreadsheet. The rest? Mortgage, credit card debt, even a down payment on a fishing boat. The room tilts. I remember Dad's sermon at church about sacrifice, about living simply for Nina's sake. My hands curl into fists. They told everyone they were barely scraping by. Perception is their armor, Evelyn says. They curated sympathy while bleeding you dry. Marcus leans forward. The fishing boat is nothing compared to this. He pulls another page. Payments toward a Florida timeshare since 2020. I laugh, bitter and sharp. A timeshare, while I was rationing groceries and working doubles. Desperation breeds entitlement, Evelyn murmurs. And they knew you'd never question it. Guilt made you compliant. The word guilt sits like lead. 11 years of bending, apologizing, handing over cash without asking for receipts. I glance at Nina's picture on the shelf, her smile before the chair, hair loose around her face. A pang cuts through my anger. She's been complicit too, hasn't she? 14 when it happened. Old enough to know. Old enough to watch me drown without throwing a rope. I sit, elbows on knees. So what now? Do we just expose them? Marcus's voice is calm, practiced. Not yet. We build airtight evidence. Witnesses, finances, medical records. When we strike, there's no wriggle room. Evelyn adds, Jason Miller is key. He was driving. He can confirm the motorcycle, the threats. And your Aunt Laura, she overheard them at the hospital. My stomach knots at Jason's name. Memories of his grin at school games, Mom's venom about him being too wild. I push the image away. You think he'd talk after all this time? He's carried guilt too, Evelyn says. My bet? He'll want to unburden. I swallow hard. And Nina? Silence. Then Marcus says, she's the hardest piece. She's lived in their house of cards too long. I picture her hands folded in her lap, thumbs rubbing grooves into each other. How many times did she almost speak? How many times did she choose silence because it was safer? Evelyn breaks the silence. We'll confront the truth gently, but first we need leverage. Proof. Without it, they'll bury you in community shame and legal threats. I nod, though my chest feels split. Then let's gather it. Marcus spreads more folders. Here's what we're tracking. The forged mortgage application, insurance claims that don't line up, therapy sessions billed but never occurred. And he slides one page toward me. My breath catches. It's my signature, but not. My name, clumsy and heavy, forged onto a loan. Dad, I whisper, recognizing the pressure points, the way he presses his pen too hard, grooves cutting through. Marcus nods. Forensic examiners confirmed. This is fraud, Maris, not just manipulation. I sit back, dizzy. The oak table flashes in my mind. Dad sliding the pen, his knuckles white. He's always pressed too hard. He pressed too hard on paper, too hard on me. The three of us sit in silence, the evidence spread like shrapnel. Finally, Evelyn says, we have the outline. Now we need the voices to fill it. Jason, Aunt Laura, I repeat like a litany. Witnesses. And you, Marcus adds, his gaze steady. Your voice matters most. You have to be willing to stand in front of them all and tell the truth. My pulse hammers. For 11 years, my truth has been scripted for me. To speak outside, it feels like stepping off a cliff. I meet his gaze. If I don't, I'll never climb out. The room stills. The decision crystallizes in the air. I gather the papers into a neat stack, though my hands shake. Okay, let's start with Jason. Evelyn closes her notebook. We'll find him, but you need to brace yourself. Every step forward will make them fight harder. People don't surrender control quietly. I know, I whisper, but I'm done surrendering too. Outside the window, the city moves like nothing has shifted. Inside, my life has cracked open. The guilt that shaped me is still there, sharp as ever. But for the first time, I see the outline of something else. A way out. Jason's name sits on my tongue like a foreign language. I haven't spoken it in years. Not since whispers in the high school bleachers and slammed doors at home. Now, Evelyn has his number pulled up on her phone, her finger hovering. You're sure? She asks. I nod, though every nerve in me screams no. If anyone can confirm the truth, it's him. She taps the screen, then passes me the phone. The ringtone is unbearably normal. 3 beats, then 4. On the 5th, a voice I half remember, deeper now, more cautious. Maris, it's Jason. I got your message. My throat dries. Yeah, I've been waiting 11 years for this call, he blurts, voice cracking on the edges. I wanted to tell you back then, but your parents, God, they scared me. The room tilts. Evelyn scribbles notes, but her eyes stay fixed on me, grounding me. Tell me what happened, I whisper. Jason exhales like he's been holding the air since the accident. Nina begged me not to say. She didn't want to be caught. She hated how they controlled her. She asked me to take her to the lake instead of letting her ride the bus. I thought I could get her back before anyone noticed. She wasn't even wearing a helmet, said it would mess up her hair for a party. We hit the yellow light. I thought I could make it. His voice falters. I didn't. My stomach clenches. And my parents? They showed up at the hospital while you were getting coffee. Your dad said if I ever told anyone she was on my bike, they'd press charges for endangering a minor. I was 17, scared out of my mind. When they started saying it was about the bus stop and the cats, You went along, I finish, numb. They used you as a scapegoat, and I let them. I'm sorry. His words rush, desperate. I'll sign a statement, notarized. I can't carry this anymore. I close my eyes. For 11 years, I've seen Nina's wheelchair every time I close them. I never saw the motorcycle, until now. Thank you, I whisper. After we hang up, silence floods the room. Evelyn lays a hand over mine. That's one voice. Marcus leans forward, recorder already running. We'll need more. Your Aunt Laura. She was there when Nina was admitted. Aunt Laura's number feels dusty in my contacts. My thumb hesitates, then presses. She answers on the second ring, her voice careful. Maris? Everything okay? No, I say honestly. I need to ask you something about the day of Nina's accident. There's a long pause, the kind that feels like the line might break. Then, I wondered how long it would take. My pulse spikes. You knew? Her voice trembles. I was bringing flowers to Nina's room. I heard your parents in the hallway. Your mother said, don't let anyone know she was with that boy. We'll say Maris was supposed to walk her to the bus, and your father, he said, Maris is responsible. She'll accept it. The words slice deeper than I imagined. And you never told me. I should have, she whispers. I was afraid. They threatened to cut me off from the family if I said anything. I've lived with that shame ever since. My hand shakes as I grip the phone tighter. Would you be willing to say that again? On record? Another pause. Then, yes, I owe you that much. More than that. When I end the call, tears blur my vision. For years, I thought silence meant my own cowardice. Now I see it everywhere. Woven into Jason, into Aunt Laura, into Nina herself. Silence their parents built like scaffolding. Evelyn exhales slowly. You have 2 witnesses, a foundation. Marcus nods. Enough to start dismantling their story, but it's going to tear open everything. I picture Nina's face at the dining table, her eyes refusing mine. Did she ever want me free? Or did she accept my sacrifice like a gift? The question gnaws. I have to confront her, I murmur. Evelyn studies me. Not yet. Not without proof in hand. She's still under their roof, their influence. When you show her the truth, it has to be undeniable. Her words make sense. Still, I ache. Nina's silence feels like betrayal, sharper than any forged signature. Yet part of me wonders, was her silence survival? Marcus stacks the folders. This is the anatomy of a decade. Inheritance stolen, career redirected, wages siphoned, lies told and retold until they hardened into scripture. I stare at the timeline pinned to the wall, 11 years of arrows and sticky notes, my life dissected. For so long, I believed I was the architect of tragedy. Now I see. I was the scaffolding, holding up everyone else's lies. And scaffolding, once it's pulled free, can bring the whole structure down. The days blur together after Jason's confession and Aunt Laura's trembling voice. I go to work, chart vitals, administer meds, but my mind is elsewhere, circling the same thought. They will never let go quietly. Evelyn proves me right when she bursts into my apartment one evening, heels clicking like gunfire against the tile. They've escalated, she announces, tossing a heavy envelope onto the table. I tear it open. A letter on embossed paper, the signature of Patricia Lambert stamped in thick black ink. Formal demand. Petition for guardianship if obligations are not met. Threat of litigation. My stomach drops. They hired her? Even I know Lambert's name. Famously ruthless, a woman who could turn obligation into iron bars. They're cornered, Evelyn says grimly. This is their counterattack. Before I can reply, my phone buzzes. A message from HR. Report immediately regarding serious allegations. Cold sweat breaks across my back. No, I whisper. They wouldn't. But they did. An hour later, I sit under fluorescent lights in a hospital conference room. My supervisor, Janet, studies a thick folder of logs while security pulls up camera footage. The accusation is absurd that I've been stealing prescription medications for profit, but absurdity doesn't stop damage. I keep my hands folded on the table, nails digging into skin, while the minutes crawl. Janet finally looks up. Your dispensing record is flawless. Security footage confirms it. These allegations have no merit. The relief makes me sag in the chair. Janet softens. I'm sorry, Maris. Family disputes can get ugly, but your career is intact. When I step outside, Evelyn is waiting by the elevators. See, she says, her voice gentler than usual. They thought fear would break you. It didn't. But the tremor in my hands betrays me. They'll try again. Marcus meets us at my apartment with a new file. His expression is grim. They already have. Look. Inside is a mortgage application with my name sprawled across the signature line. I stare, bile rising. The strokes are clumsy, but familiar. Dad's heavy hand pressing too hard, grooves cutting through paper. That's forgery, Marcus says flatly. The bank's examiner confirmed it. I cover my face with both hands. My own father's handwriting, weaponized. Evelyn leans forward. This moves beyond manipulation. It's criminal. With this and the police report, they don't just lose moral ground. They risk charges. A hollow laugh escapes me. So their answer to desperation is more desperation. Forge my name, accuse me of crimes, drag me into court. That's what people do when they're drowning, Marcus says. They'll pull anyone under to breathe another second. I lower my hands, meet his gaze. Then it's time we stop letting them breathe through me. The war room takes shape again. Documents sorted, evidence tagged, timelines updated with red arrows for escalation. My life reduced to exhibits. But instead of drowning, I feel steadier, like each page is a rung on a ladder out of a pit I never knew had an end. They won't stop until they destroy your reputation, Evelyn warns. Then we hit first, I reply, surprising myself with the steel in my voice. We show everyone what they've done. Marcus nods slowly. Then the next move is theirs. That night, I lie awake staring at the ceiling. I picture Dad's mustache twitching as he pushed the pen at me. Mom's voice, sweet as syrup, saying, or we'll tell everyone. The oak table becomes a courtroom in my mind. Papers, witnesses, community elders, and me no longer silent. For the first time, I imagine walking into that room not as the guilty party, but as the one carrying the truth. The thought terrifies me. It also sets me free. The day of the tribunal arrives like a storm cloud I can't sidestep. Mom's text had been short, sharp. Family meeting. Tonight. Non-negotiable. The pit in my stomach told me exactly what kind of performance they'd orchestrate. When I step into the old dining room, the sight nearly knocks the air from me. Extra chairs ring the oak table like a jury box. Uncle Robert, Aunt Patricia, 2 elders from church, Pastor Miller, Bible resting precisely before him. And at the head, Dad in his Sunday suit, shoulders squared. Mom hovers, passing out stapled packets as though she's running a board meeting. Nina sits in her wheelchair against the far side, eyes fixed on her lap. Thank you all for coming, Dad begins, voice coated with sincerity that once fooled even me. This is difficult, but family matters require family solutions. I sink into the lone, empty chair, heat prickling the back of my neck. For those who don't know, Dad continues, Maris has been responsible for Nina's care since the accident 11 years ago. Recently, she's decided to abandon that responsibility. A ripple of shocked murmurs sweeps the room. I open my mouth, but Dad raises his hand like a judge silencing the court. We've covered expenses as best we could, he says, eyes shining with conjured tears. But my health issues make full-time work impossible. Lie. He was fired for performance. Mom steps in seamlessly. These are just bills from the last 6 months. She gestures to the binders she handed out. Without Maris's contributions, Nina's therapy will stop entirely. Another lie. Insurance covers most of it. Nora, Uncle Robert stumbles over my name, shaking his head. How could you let this happen to your sister? Pastor Miller clears his throat gravely. Perhaps mediation will help. Surely we can reach an arrangement that honors your obligations. The attorney, Lambert herself, slides papers toward me. A simple caregiver agreement. Once signed, Nina's needs are secure. All eyes turn. The weight of expectation presses like a hand on my chest. The same script I've been forced to recite for years. Guilt, shame, obligation. But tonight, there's another script waiting. My phone vibrates in my pocket. The signal. I rise slowly. My voice comes out steadier than I feel. Before anyone signs anything, I'd like to introduce someone. The doorbell rings. Mom frowns, irritation cutting her features. Who could that be? My attorney, I answer, and a journalist who's been investigating what really happened 11 years ago. The room freezes. Dad's jaw locks. I walk to the door and open it. Evelyn enters first, poised in her charcoal suit, briefcase in hand. Behind her is Marcus with his recorder visible, and then Aunt Laura, small but unshaken. What is she doing here? Mom hisses, color draining from her face. Supporting the truth, Laura replies, moving to stand beside me. Pastor Miller looks bewildered as Evelyn introduces herself. I'm representing Maris Vale. I understand you've been discussing a caregiving agreement under false pretenses. This is absurd, Dad barks, composure cracking. Nina is paralyzed because Maris failed to walk her to the bus. Everyone knows this story. That's the story you told, I say, voice sharp with a calm I don't recognize. But it isn't what happened. Is it, Dad? Marcus sets his recorder on the table. Martin and Diane Vale. I'm Marcus Bennett with the Denver Chronicle. I've been investigating your financial arrangements regarding your daughter's care. Mom sputters, fury twisting her face. How dare you drag strangers in here, after everything we've done for Nina? Everything you've done? My laugh cuts harshly. You spent 11 years making me believe I destroyed my sister's life. You drained my inheritance, my paycheck, my future, and you dared to call it love. The room stirs with unease. Pastor Miller leans forward, Bible closed now. Maris, these are serious accusations. They are, I agree, which is why everyone deserves to see the truth. Evelyn opens her briefcase and hands out manila folders. Pages slide across the table. Police report, witness statements, financial records. I slide one toward Nina, myself. She hesitates, then looks up at me, fear flickering in her eyes. After 11 years, don't you think it's time? I whisper. Her hands tighten on her wheels. Tears shimmer. Across the table, Uncle Robert's face pales as he scans the documents. This says the accident happened miles from the bus stop on a motorcycle. Yes, I say evenly. With Jason Miller, not because of me. The silence that follows is thick enough to choke on. Aunt Laura's voice trembles as she speaks. I heard them that day. They planned the lie before Nina even went into surgery. They said Maris would accept the blame. All eyes shift to my parents. For the first time, they have nothing rehearsed. Nina's voice breaks the silence. Small, shaking, but growing stronger. I skipped the bus. I wanted to ride with Jason. Mom and Dad told me Maris would be blamed, and I stayed quiet. Tears stream down her face. My own vision blurs, but I don't look away. I let you carry it for 11 years, she sobs. I'm sorry. The room explodes, gasps, elders whispering, Pastor Miller standing to his feet. Martin, Diane, is this true? My father's lips twitch, searching for denial. My mother presses hers into a bloodless line. Neither speaks. And in their silence, the house of cards begins to collapse. The silence after Nina's confession is louder than any shouting match we've ever had. Pastor Miller's Bible shuts with a soft thud, a sound that feels like judgment. Aunt Patricia covers her mouth. Uncle Robert's face hardens into stone. Dad looks around, searching for allies, but all he finds are averted eyes. Mom's hands tremble as she gathers the scattered folders, her voice desperate. We were protecting Nina from scandal. She was just a child. What would people have said if they knew she'd been sneaking off with that boy? It was easier for everyone if Maris carried the blame. She was strong enough. Strong enough? My voice cuts through the air, sharper than I intend. You made me believe I ruined her life. You made me give up mine to pay a debt I never owed. You still owe her, Dad snaps, the mask cracking. Whether you like it or not, she's in that chair because of you. No, Nina says quietly, but firmly. Everyone turns toward her. She wipes her eyes with the back of her hand, shoulders trembling. I am. I chose to skip the bus. I chose Jason. I've been too scared to say it, but it wasn't Maris. The words fall like stones into water, sending ripples through the room. Evelyn steps forward, her voice steady. And let's be clear. Beyond the lies, we now have evidence of financial fraud. Forged signatures, misappropriated funds, insurance claims that don't add up. This isn't just a family dispute, it's criminal. Marcus clicks his recorder off, then back on deliberately, letting the sound punctuate the moment. This story will see daylight, whether through the courts, the press, or both. Uncle Robert pushes his chair back, fury written across his face, not at me, but at my parents. You've manipulated this family, the church, the entire community. For what? A timeshare in Florida? Mom flinches as though struck. Dad's jaw sets hard, but the sweat on his forehead betrays him. Pastor Miller shakes his head, grief etched deep. This betrayal goes against everything you preached, Martin, everything you claimed to stand for. For once, my parents have no sermon, no tidy parable to cover the rot. I move around the table, kneeling beside Nina's chair. She's crying silently now, hands shaking as they grip the wheels. I never abandoned you, I whisper, even when they made me believe I had. You never needed to lie to keep me. She clutches my hand like a lifeline. Can you ever forgive me? I hesitate. The years of silence cut deep, but looking at her now, trembling, ashamed, I see not an enemy, just another victim in a web spun by fear. I squeeze her hand. There's nothing to forgive. We were both trapped. Across the table, Lambert closes her briefcase with a snap. My clients have nothing further to discuss. Her eyes cut toward my parents, but even she looks unsettled, as if she realizes she's been enlisted to defend a collapsing empire. Dad straightens his tie, his last armor. We're done here. But no one rises to follow them. No one speaks goodbyes. They leave through the front door, Mom's heels clicking against the hardwood. Dad's shoulders hunched, though he tries to keep them squared. The door closes with a hollow echo, and suddenly the room is still. Pastor Miller places a hand on my shoulder, his voice gentler than I've ever heard it. From this day forward, the truth will guide us. Not shame, not lies. I look at Nina, her tear-streaked face illuminated by the soft glow of the chandelier. For the first time in over a decade, the weight pressing on my chest lifts. The oak table, the stage for my sentencing, has become something else tonight. Not a prison. A place of reckoning. And for the first time, I'm not the one on trial. 3 weeks after that night, I stand in the doorway of a sunlit apartment that smells faintly of new paint and possibility. The countertops are lower, the hallways wide, the bathroom fitted with rails. Nina wheels herself across the threshold, her eyes wide, her fingers brushing the wall as though testing if it's real. Is this really mine? She whispers. All yours, I tell her, setting a box of dishes on the counter. The settlement covered the first year's rent and all the modifications. No more asking permission to move around your own space. She lets out a shaky laugh, the kind I haven't heard since before the accident. I don't know what to say. You don't have to say anything, I reply. Just live. The weeks since the tribunal have been a blur. Evelyn filing for guardianship of Nina's benefits, Marcus publishing a carefully written exposé, the church board launching an investigation into misused funds. My parents retreated into silence, their calls unanswered. The community that once praised them now whispers questions they can't dodge. And Nina, she's slowly shedding the hunched shoulders of apology. That evening, we sit on her new balcony, mugs of tea warming our hands. Below us, a community garden hums with life. Neighbors tending soil, children chasing each other between rows of tomato plants. I keep waking up thinking I need to check with Mom and Dad before doing anything, Nina admits. Then I remember, I don't. She laughs, watery but real. Yesterday, I filled out my own disability benefits application. Turns out they lied. I've been eligible for a decade. I smile, though bitterness curls in me. They needed you dependent, same as they needed me guilty. Her eyes flick to me, guilt shadowing them. I don't know if you can ever forgive me for staying quiet. I already told you, I say softly. We were both trapped, just in different cages. She nods, but I can see she doesn't fully believe it yet. Healing takes longer than confession. Later, 3 nurses from my unit arrive with pizza and laughter, their arms full of boxes. Marcia, the charge nurse who's watched me stumble through double shifts, hugs me tight. We've made a rotation schedule to help Nina while you're in classes, she says. The whole unit signed up. Nina blinks back tears as they unpack food and fold her into their chatter. I never knew people cared this much, she murmurs after they leave. You didn't know because they convinced us care was control, I tell her. But real care? It makes you freer, not smaller. In the quiet that follows, I realize I believe my own words. 6 months later, I'm in a lecture hall, blue scrubs replaced by a blazer, my notes spread neatly in front of me. Nurse Practitioner Program. Something I once thought out of reach. My loans are still heavy, my apartment small, but my life is mine. After class, I drive to Nina's. The smell of lasagna greets me before she does, her voice calling, "Dinner's ready." She transfers herself from chair to table with ease, grinning at my surprised expression. Been practicing, she says proudly. We eat, talk about her advocacy course, about the families she's already helping navigate the system our parents exploited. When she asks if I've spoken to them, I shake my head. Not until they take responsibility, not just with words, but with actions. She nods and for once doesn't argue. On the 1-year anniversary of the confrontation, we visit the city park where I used to feed stray cats. Leaves crunch under Nina's wheels, the air sharp with autumn. Remember when this place felt cursed to you? She asks, a smile tugging her lips. Yeah, I answer. Now it feels like where everything began to change. We pause by the clearing. I look down at her, and she looks up at me, sunlight catching in her eyes. We survived, she says quietly. More than that, I reply. We got free. The words settle between us, not just truth, but promise. Because freedom, once tasted, can never be given back. 6 months later, I stand at the front of a trauma unit classroom, a whiteboard marker in my hand, 10 new nurses staring back at me with the wide eyes I used to have. My scrubs are the same shade of hospital blue, but everything else is different. Remember, I tell them, your first responsibility is to advocate for your patients. Sometimes that means standing up to family members who claim to know what's best. Sometimes it means protecting someone from the very people who should have protected them. The words echo heavier in me than I let on. My hands don't shake anymore when I say them. After the session, I drive to Nina's apartment for our weekly dinner. She's stirring sauce when I arrive, the smell of garlic and tomatoes wrapping the room in warmth. She's learned to cook from her chair, movements confident now. How's the online program? I ask, setting my bag down. 3 A's, she answers with a grin. My disability advocacy course is my favorite. I'm already helping 2 families fight insurance denials. Pride swells in me. Bittersweet. You're turning everything we live through into a map for someone else. She shrugs, but her smile softens. It feels like the least I can do. We eat at her accessible table, laughter woven into bites of lasagna. She tells me our parents called again, leaving another message about forgiveness and family obligations. I sip my wine. When they take responsibility, when they make amends to everyone they hurt, I'll consider it. Until then, silence is an answer too. Nina nods. For once, she doesn't try to defend them. On the 1-year anniversary of the tribunal, we return to the city park where everything began for me. The cats, the guilt, the lie. Autumn leaves crunch beneath Nina's wheels as I guide her along the old trail. We stop at the clearing where I used to kneel with kibble in my hands, terrified I'd cost my sister her life. Hard to believe this place haunted you, Nina says softly. Not anymore, I answer. Now it feels like proof. Lies can't stay buried forever. She tilts her head back to look at the canopy of orange leaves. We survived. More than survived, I reply. We remade ourselves. That evening, we attend her physical therapy milestone celebration. Nina demonstrates transferring from her chair to a treatment table without help. Applause fills the room. When asked to speak, she steadies herself and says, "The heaviest burden wasn't my paralysis. It was the lie we lived under. Tonight, I feel lighter than I have in years." I clap until my hands sting, tears blurring the sight of her, stronger, freer, speaking truth without fear. Later, as we leave, Nina looks at me with a tentative smile. Do you ever wonder what would have happened if Evelyn hadn't asked about the police report? I think about it as we walk toward the car. The chill of night wraps around us, but it doesn't seep in. I think the truth always finds a way out, I say. It was too big to stay buried. We drive away, headlights cutting through the dark. For the first time in 11 years, the future feels not like punishment, but possibility. And I know whatever comes next, it will be built on truth, not lies.